I remember the suffocating weight of my university's tuition bill, its numbers glaring at me like a judge in a courtroom. My budget was stretching thinner than the ramen noodles I had been living on for weeks. I sat at my cluttered desk, surrounded by rejection emails, when Victor Sinclair's offer popped up in my inbox. $1,000 for 48 hours alone in the wilderness, an experiment he called a survival manual. The thought ignited a flicker of hope within me. With a mix of excitement and dread, I met Victor at a private airfield outside Boston. The moment I laid eyes on him, I noted the stark contrast between his polished appearance and my worn jeans. His silver hair glinted under the sun, and the expensive watch on his wrist ticked with an air of authority that made me feel small. He greeted me with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, leaving me with an unsettling impression that something was off. As we boarded the helicopter, I watched the rotors spin to life above us. The heavy thud in my stomach warned me against what lay ahead. The craft lifted us into the misty morning sky, leaving behind my mundane life like a distant memory. With every inch we gained in altitude, I felt a strange mix of anticipation and anxiety coursing through me. Victor's voice broke through the hum of the rotors as he explained the GPS tracker embedded in my backpack. Tamper-proof, he assured me, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that it was more of a warning than a comfort. My hands trembled slightly as I adjusted the straps on my shoulders. Each movement reminded me that this adventure was both an escape and a trap. The helicopter ride gave way to sprawling forests below, rich greens blending into shadows as we soared higher. My heart raced with every passing moment, teetering between exhilaration and fear. What awaited me in those woods? Would this survival manual lead to newfound freedom or deeper entrapment? When we finally touched down, Victor wasted no time unloading our gear from the helicopter's belly. I could see the excitement flickering in his eyes as he handed me my survival kit, a collection of tools and supplies promising empowerment yet filled with an undercurrent of danger. He spoke about wilderness skills and self-sufficiency while I listened intently, but unease crept in with each word. I took a deep breath, grounding myself amidst this unsettling atmosphere. So what's next? I asked, trying to mask my apprehension with curiosity. Victor turned to face me directly. There was something almost predatory in his gaze. "You'll learn quickly," he said, his smile widening just enough to reveal too much teeth. "Trust yourself out here, trust your instincts." The woods seemed to close around us as I stepped into their embrace, a stark contrast to the sterile environment of my everyday life. Trees loomed overhead like ancient sentinels guarding secrets untold. As I ventured deeper into this new realm, a strange thrill coursed through me. Perhaps this was what I needed, a break from reality. Yet as dusk began to drape its shadow over the land, doubt seeped back in like fog curling around tree trunks. The chirping birds faded into eerie silence. Even nature felt different here, threateningly quiet. Something whispered beneath the surface of tranquility. "Remember," Victor's voice echoed through my thoughts, "trust your instincts." But instinct told me to be wary, to keep one eye open for dangers unseen. I set up camp as twilight settled around us, fumbling with knots and gear while anxiety gnawed at my insides like an uninvited guest at dinner. Every snap of twigs sent chills racing down my spine. It wasn't just wildlife lurking, it felt like shadows were watching. Just then, Victor's voice sliced through the growing darkness again. "You know," he said casually while stirring a small fire pit we had built together earlier, "out here people can become someone entirely different." His words hung thickly in the air between us, loaded with implications that made my skin prickle uncomfortably. What did he mean? Was there something more sinister buried beneath this survival experiment? "I came out here for clarity," I replied cautiously, trying to gauge his intent while keeping myself grounded amidst rising tension. Victor chuckled softly, but there was no warmth in it, only an edge that cut deeper than any knife could manage. Ah yes, clarity is often found when you strip away everything else. His gaze bore into mine like he was peeling back layers of protection I didn't even know existed. A chill ran down my spine as I realized how vulnerable I truly was, not just physically but mentally and emotionally exposed out here under his watchful eye. The darkness thickened around us like smoke choking out light, every rustle became amplified as if revealing secrets meant to stay hidden. As night fell completely over our campsite, unease clawed at me relentlessly. I wondered if I'd made a grave mistake trusting Victor Sinclair. My heart raced faster than before, doubts flooded my mind about whether this experience would bring financial relief or lead down paths darker than any forest could conceal. If you're enjoying this unsettling journey so far, leave a like. I felt the cold, damp air wrap around me as I stepped deeper into Arkham National Forest. The ancient pines towered above like cathedral spires, their whispering needles creating an unsettling symphony in the profound silence. Each step I took felt heavy with the weight of uncertainty, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the woods were watching me, judging my every move. As I looked around, I noticed how uniform the trees appeared, each one identical to the last, creating a disorienting effect that made it hard to distinguish my surroundings. With a deep breath, I began to inventory my meager supplies, a pocket knife, a journal, and 2 matches. The absence of a map or compass gnawed at me. Victor's lost scenario was becoming all too real. My heart raced at the realization that I was truly alone out here, far from any semblance of civilization. I mounted the GoPro on my chest and started documenting my thoughts as I navigated through the dense underbrush, trying to make sense of this unnerving wilderness. As I trekked along a narrow path, I stumbled upon a small stream. The water glistened in the fading light, inviting and cool. Without thinking much about it, I knelt down and drank greedily. The taste was faintly mineral-like and earthy, a refreshing sensation that momentarily distracted me from my growing unease. Still, the echo of my Eagle Scout training rang in my ears, warning me not to let my guard down so easily. Looking up from the stream, I saw how the afternoon sun filtered through the thick canopy above. Shadows danced along the forest floor, shifting in rhythm with an unseen presence lurking just beyond sight. My skin prickled with goosebumps as an eerie silence enveloped me. Even the usual forest sound seemed muted, as if nature itself held its breath. Every rustle of leaves made my heart skip, a sign of life or a harbinger of something darker. After wandering for what felt like hours, I decided it was time to build a rudimentary camp before darkness settled in completely. My fingers fumbled with twigs and branches as I assembled a small fire pit. The match struck against its box with a sharp hiss before flaring to life, an ember of warmth against the encroaching chill. As flames flickered to life, casting dancing shadows around me, comfort washed over me momentarily. Yet that comfort was short-lived. Shadows lengthened and twisted in ways that were far from natural as night fell upon the forest like a shroud. Each crackle of burning wood seemed amplified in the stillness, reverberating through the trees like whispers carrying secrets meant for only their kind. My heart thudded louder than ever as I sat beside my small fire, alone but not truly alone. "I need to stay calm," I muttered under my breath, trying to steady my racing thoughts. My voice sounded foreign in this vast emptiness. It felt swallowed by shadows creeping closer with every passing minute. Then came a sound, a low rustle from behind me that sent chills racing down my spine. It wasn't just an animal, it felt intentional, as if something or someone was moving through the underbrush deliberately, testing boundaries without revealing itself fully. I turned slowly towards where it came from but saw nothing but darkness pooling between ancient trunks. Hello? My voice trembled slightly, uncertainty tightened its grip around my throat. No answer came except for another rustle followed by an unsettling silence settling heavily in its wake. Sensing danger lurking nearby intensified every instinct within me. Should I pack up and run? Or should I stay put where it was safe? With barely enough time to consider my options, I stood up abruptly, the sudden movement sending stray embers flying into the air like startled fireflies. "Get it together," I whispered firmly to myself while gripping tightly onto my pocket knife, a small comfort against whatever unseen threat loomed close by. Each second felt stretched thin as if reality had warped under pressure. Fear wrapped its tendrils around me tighter than any vine could manage in this dense forest. Then suddenly, a shadow darted past behind one of those towering trees, a fleeting glimpse so quick that doubt crept into my mind. Was it real or just a trick of dimming light? My pulse quickened again at this revelation. There was no denying now that something unnatural lurked among these woods, something waiting for nightfall when vulnerability hung thick in its atmosphere. I took another deep breath before shifting focus back to building up defenses around my small campfire, gathering rocks from nearby while listening intently for any signs of movement beyond what lay cloaked within darkness itself. In those moments filled with dread yet tinged with determination emerged clarity. Whatever awaited me here would not deter me easily. This journey had already begun unraveling secrets better left hidden long ago. And just then, a snapping branch echoed through silence, a call for action. I woke to the biting cold, my body stiff and uncomfortable against the damp earth beneath me. The fire had died down to mere embers, leaving a chill that seeped into my bones. My throat felt parched, and I realized my water supply was nearly gone. The hunger gnawed at my insides with a new intensity, pushing me toward action. It was time to search for sustenance and perhaps a larger water source. I recalled my Eagle Scout training and decided to follow the stream upstream, hoping it would lead me to a lake or something similar. As I trudged through the underbrush, each step seemed heavier than the last. The shadows of the trees loomed over me, their gnarled branches casting eerie shapes on the ground. I could hear my heartbeat thundering in my ears as I moved cautiously along the narrow bank of the stream. My mind raced with thoughts of survival, of what lay ahead in this unknown territory. Suddenly, I stumbled upon something half buried beneath a tangle of roots, a discarded, mud-caked backpack. My heart pounded with sudden dread as I knelt beside it. I hesitated before reaching out, afraid of what this find might reveal. As I pulled it free from its earthy prison, adrenaline surged through me. This was no ordinary backpack. Inside, I found a corroded GoPro camera, its screen cracked and smeared with dirt. A waterlogged journal lay nestled next to it, its pages were brittle but still legible. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized the name scrawled on the cover, Jessica. A wave of panic washed over me. Who was she? What had happened here? I quickly activated the GoPro, praying for some clue about Jessica's fate. Fragmented footage flickered onto the screen, images that made my stomach churn. There she was, her face pale with terror as she whispered urgently into the camera. He knew. Victor knew. The words echoed in my mind like a warning bell before the image dissolved into static. My hands trembled as I fumbled with the journal next. Flipping through its pages revealed Jessica's frantic handwriting. Desperation dripped from every line she wrote. In her final entry, she described the chanting and the table, a chilling premonition that clawed at my gut like an animal desperate to escape a trap. I could feel panic rising within me like bile. Victor had lured her here too. What had he done? The realization struck me hard. He wasn't just a guide, he was a predator hunting unsuspecting victims under the guise of survival training. Just then, distant echoes reached my ears, the faint sound of chanting carried through the trees like an ominous hymn reverberating against the stillness surrounding me. It tugged at something primal within me, urging me to flee while there was still time. Yet curiosity held me captive. What did they mean? Who were these voices calling from deep within the forest? I stood frozen for a moment longer before instinct kicked in. Desperation fueled my feet as I turned away from that cursed backpack and sprinted upstream along the bank of the stream. Branches whipped against my skin like angry fingers trying to pull me back into their grip. The shadows seemed to stretch and twist around me as if they were alive. The chant grew louder now, an eerie melody that resonated with ancient power reverberating through every fiber of my being. My lungs burned as I pushed myself harder. Each step carried an urgency that turned into sheer panic when jagged rocks threatened to trip me up. Then suddenly, everything changed. A clearing appeared before me like an oasis amidst chaos. Sunlight broke through layers of leaves overhead, illuminating a serene pond surrounded by vibrant wildflowers swaying gently in an unseen breeze. But even here under nature's beauty lay an unsettling stillness. I couldn't shake off that feeling of being watched. I approached cautiously, scanning every inch for signs of life or danger lurking just beyond sight. As I knelt beside this tranquil body of water to drink deeply from its cool surface, questions swirled in my mind like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. Had Jessica found this place? Had Victor led her here only to abandon her? Before long though, those thoughts faded into urgency once more. I needed answers. My breath quickened as unease tightened around my chest like a vice grip. Victor's intentions were becoming painfully clear, a twisted game set against us by an unseen hand. Determined not to become another casualty lost among whispers carried by windswept trees, I forced myself back onto solid ground readying for whatever lay ahead. I remember the moment reality crashed into me like a wave of cold water. Victor's survival challenge was not a test, it was a meticulously crafted trap designed to ensnare unsuspecting souls. My stomach turned as nausea washed over me, and I fumbled through my backpack, desperate to locate the GPS tracker. It felt like a homing beacon, not for rescue, but for something far worse lurking in the depths of these woods. I ripped open every pocket, my hands shaking with dread as I thought about the implications of what I might find. No map, no compass, just that insidious device that could lead whatever hunted me right to my door. Panic surged within me like a wildfire, igniting every instinct screaming for survival. Each second stretched out, amplifying the silence around me until it felt suffocating. Then I caught sight of something in the underbrush that made my heart race anew, massive indentations in the soft earth. They were enormous footprints leading deeper into the forest, not away from it. My breath hitched as I traced their path with trembling fingers. These were not human prints. The sheer size sent a chill down my spine, and I fought against the rising tide of panic threatening to drown me. As I stood there, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty, distant rhythmic thuds reached my ears. Each sound reverberated through the ground beneath me, making the ancient trees tremble in response. It felt as if something colossal was moving through the forest, closing in on my position while I remained helplessly rooted to the spot. My mind raced with irrational thoughts. What if Victor had orchestrated this entire scenario? What if he wasn't just a guide but part of something far more sinister? I tried to rationalize what was happening. Jessica's desperate words echoed relentlessly in my mind, "Don't let them take you to the table." The phrase haunted me like a ghost whispering warnings from beyond. What table? Who were they? Every question churned inside me like a storm as dread wrapped around my throat. Feeling an urgent need to escape this nightmarish reality, I finally tore myself away from those footprints and began moving again. Each step felt like running against an invisible tide pushing me back toward whatever fate awaited at that elusive table Jessica had mentioned. My surroundings blurred as fear clouded my judgment. All that mattered was putting distance between myself and whatever threat loomed nearby. I stumbled forward through tangled underbrush and gnarled roots that clawed at my legs like desperate hands trying to pull me back into darkness. As I moved further into uncharted territory, shadows danced around me, bending and twisting in ways that seemed almost alive. My heart hammered against my ribcage with every crackle of twigs beneath my feet. Each sound reminded me how vulnerable I truly was. Just then, an eerie silence enveloped everything around me. Even the wind seemed to hush its breath in anticipation. The only noise left was that relentless thudding rhythm echoing somewhere deep within the woods, a heartbeat resonating with mine but utterly alien and unsettling. I pressed on despite feeling more lost with each passing moment. My instincts screamed at me to turn back, yet curiosity mingled dangerously with fear, propelling me forward into this treacherous unknown where answers might lay hidden among dark secrets waiting to be uncovered. Then came another sound, louder this time. A chorus of voices chanting in unison carried through the trees like a haunting melody that wrapped around my consciousness and pulled me closer against my will. The hair on the back of my neck prickled as I strained to decipher what they were saying. Every word slipped through my grasp like water from cupped hands. Driven by equal parts terror and intrigue, I crept closer until I reached a clearing bathed in strange twilight light filtering through dense foliage above, a surreal contrast to the encroaching gloom surrounding us all like a thick fog closing in on prey. In this clearing stood an altar made of twisted branches bound together by sinewy vines, a grotesque tableau that sent shivers racing down my spine. Unexplainable dread filled my chest as something deep within warned me, whatever happened here was not meant for outsiders like myself. Desperation surged anew. It dawned on me then, I had no choice but to move quickly before being ensnared by whatever horrors lurked beyond those trees or drawn closer by those ominous chants echoing relentlessly around me. My resolve hardened. There would be no turning back now, not when salvation lay ahead somewhere out there amidst chaos threatening to swallow everything whole, including myself if given half a chance. As whispers from unseen figures echoed behind me alongside shadows shifting just out of sight, all urging caution, I knew one thing for certain: it was time to find a way out of this nightmare once and for all, even if it meant abandoning any hope left behind that Victor would come looking for someone lost among these twisted paths riddled with danger lurking at every turn. I stumbled through the thick undergrowth, my lungs burning, until I saw a faint, flickering light through the trees. The glow beckoned me like a siren's song, both alluring and terrifying. With every cautious step, I felt the ground shift beneath me, an unsettling reminder of the unseen dangers lurking in the shadows. I crept closer, hiding behind a massive oak, my heart hammering against my ribs as I glimpsed a clearing bathed in an eerie, otherworldly glow. In that moment of stillness, I could hardly believe what lay before me. I saw a crude wooden platform in the center of the clearing, surrounded by figures shrouded in dark robes. They moved rhythmically around it, their low, guttural chanting filling the night air like a sinister melody. Each word was an incantation that sent shivers racing down my spine. My instincts screamed at me to run. Something primal within me recognized this gathering as a violation of nature itself. As I stood frozen, absorbing the horrifying spectacle before me, I felt the ground tremble violently beneath my feet. The vibrations resonated through my bones like an ominous warning. In that moment of dread, a colossal silhouette emerged from the tree line, an impossible shape that defied all logic and reason. My mind struggled to process its existence. It felt like a manifestation of nightmares come to life. I watched in horror as the robed figures raised their arms in unison toward this abomination. Their voices rose to a fever pitch, a terrifying symphony of devotion that echoed throughout the forest. My breath quickened as panic surged within me. This was no ordinary ritual. It was an invocation of something far more powerful than I could comprehend. Desperate for escape, I scrambled away from my hiding place behind the oak tree. My body screamed in protest as branches snagged at my clothes and thorns tore at my skin. Every instinct urged me to flee, to put distance between myself and whatever malevolent force was being summoned in that clearing. But the sounds of snapping trees and the creature's resonant vibration chased me through the dark, unforgiving woods. The underbrush clawed at my legs as I dashed deeper into the forest's heart. My mind raced with thoughts of survival. How had Victor orchestrated such a trap? How could he have known about this place? With each frantic heartbeat echoing in my ears, clarity began to settle into focus. This wasn't merely about survival anymore, it was about uncovering layers of deception that had entwined around me since day one. Suddenly, a chilling howl pierced through the night air, a sound so haunting it froze me in place for just a second longer than I'd intended. The chanting faded into frantic murmurs behind me, but now there were footsteps closing in from all directions. The entities summoned by those robed figures were no longer confined to that clearing. I ran faster than ever before, adrenaline coursed through my veins like wildfire, igniting every nerve ending within me. Every step felt precarious on uneven ground littered with roots and stones eager to trip me up as if they too conspired against my escape. But then came another tremor, a forceful quake beneath my feet that knocked me off balance. I staggered but regained my footing just as branches whipped past my face like angry serpents trying to ensnare their prey. A cold sweat dripped down my back, each instinct shouted for caution even as fear pushed me forward. With sheer willpower propelling me onward, I recalled Victor's warnings about survival, not just physically but mentally too, how danger often lurked within our own minds as much as it did outside us. I finally burst out onto what appeared to be an old logging road overgrown with wild grass and weeds, an unexpected reprieve from the encroaching darkness surrounding me moments ago. My breath came out in ragged gasps as I scanned for signs of life or hope beyond those twisted trees. But there was no solace here, only silence creeping back into existence while shadows danced eerily across moonlit patches ahead. In that quiet void filled with uncertainty lingered memories of everything leading up until now, messages exchanged online with Derek promising change tinged with hints of danger, Victor's unsettling smile, my own naivety leading straight into this nightmare unfolding before me now. At last, glancing back towards where I'd come from one last time, each pulse throbbing loudly against my chest, I realized nothing would ever be quite right again after tonight's revelations unfolded before me like pages torn from some forgotten tome recounting ancient horrors best left undisturbed. And yet amidst all this chaos emerged clarity. While fear may paralyze or consume us at times, to confront our deepest uncertainties becomes paramount if we ever wish to truly survive beyond mere existence itself. I found myself collapsed at the base of a massive tree, its gnarled roots cradling me like an ancient guardian. Dawn broke through the canopy, illuminating the world in soft hues of gold and orange, but I could hardly appreciate its beauty. My body ached from fatigue and trauma, every muscle protesting as I shifted slightly to find a more comfortable position. The horrors of the night before replayed in my mind like an endless loop, each moment etched into my memory with haunting clarity. As I lay there, I realized my backpack and GoPro were gone, lost in the chaos of my escape. A wave of panic washed over me. Those items had felt like lifelines, remnants of a world I once understood. But then I noticed something clutched in my hand, Jessica's crumpled journal alongside my pocket knife. How those small tokens survived remained a mystery, yet they provided a flicker of comfort amidst the overwhelming uncertainty. With determination surging within me, I pushed myself up from the ground, each movement eliciting groans of protest from my weary body. It was time to move again. Driven by a primal need for survival, I stumbled forward, searching for water and food among the dense underbrush. The taste of creek water refreshed me momentarily as I filled my mouth with whatever wild berries I could identify along the way. Their tartness brought me back to life. Each bite was a reminder that I was still here. Days dragged on in this exhausting routine until the 13th day finally arrived, a day that would change everything once again. As I trudged along what appeared to be an overgrown logging road, a distant hum reached my ears, an engine. My heart surged with hope. That sound felt like salvation cutting through the oppressive silence surrounding me. Tears pricked at my eyes as I stumbled onto the path, desperation fueling my steps. When park rangers appeared around the bend, their faces etched with concern made me feel both relieved and anxious. "Thank God," one ranger muttered as he approached me cautiously. My voice trembled as I tried to explain what had happened, the cultists, the monstrous entity lurking in the woods, but it felt like my words fell flat against their skeptical expressions. "Are you sure you're not just disoriented?" another ranger asked gently but firmly, his brow furrowed in disbelief. I shook my head vigorously, frustration bubbled within me like lava ready to erupt. "No. You don't understand. There were people, chanting. Something evil was happening out there." My voice cracked under the weight of disbelief that hung thick in the air. Their gazes exchanged knowing looks filled with pity rather than understanding, a dismissive response that stung deeper than any physical wound ever could. They filed away my account as wilderness misadventure and head trauma, tossing aside everything I'd experienced as if it were merely figments of an exhausted mind grappling for coherence after spending too long alone in nature's grasp. I listened intently as they discussed their findings among themselves, no signs of cult activity or any evidence supporting my claims. Their voices faded into background noise while thoughts raced through my mind. How could they not see? How could they dismiss what had been so real to me? My heart sank further into despair. It felt like all those nights spent trembling in fear had meant nothing to them. As they guided me towards safety, their vehicle waiting just beyond, I couldn't shake off that lingering sense of dread that clung stubbornly to me. What if those dark figures still roamed free? What if their chant echoed in other parts of these woods? The forest loomed large behind us, it pulsed with unseen energy even from this distance. In that moment, standing on the threshold between two worlds, the safety of civilization and the chaos left behind, I realized something profound. It wasn't just about being believed anymore, it was about confronting this darkness within myself that refused to let go of what I'd endured out there. So many questions buzzed around inside me like angry bees. What truly happened during those nights? Had Victor orchestrated this nightmare solely for his twisted amusement? Or was he merely a pawn caught up in something far larger than any one individual could control? As we reached our destination and parked rangers began unloading supplies from their vehicle, snacks and bottled water offered to soothe shattered nerves, I took one last look back toward Arkham National Forest where shadows danced ominously beneath swaying branches. This journey had changed everything about who I thought I was. It stripped away layers until only raw vulnerability remained beneath it all, a truth unfiltered by societal expectations or conventional norms. And today, when memories flash before my eyes, the laughter echoing through hallways long forgotten or quiet moments shared by friends lost along life's winding path, I understand now more than ever before, surviving means recognizing both light and dark exist simultaneously within us all. Perhaps true strength lies not merely within our triumphs but also within our ability to confront fears hidden deep inside ourselves without flinching away from what we've lived through. I remember that moment when I returned to my apartment in Chicago, the familiar sounds of the city engulfing me like a heavy blanket. Sirens blared in the distance, and the honking of cars created a cacophony that drowned out my thoughts. Yet, despite the chaos surrounding me, there was an unsettling silence that gnawed at my insides, a reminder of what I had left behind in Arkham National Forest. The vibrant colors of city life stood in stark contrast to the shadows that haunted my dreams, and I felt a bone-deep vibration echo within me, a ghostly reminder of the creature lurking in those woods. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself obsessively scrolling through missing persons reports online. Each time I stumbled upon another name, another young adult who had disappeared during a new moon, I felt a chill wash over me. My heart raced as I connected the dots. It was as if each case whispered secrets about an ancient malevolence that resided within those trees, a force that thrived on unsuspecting souls drawn to its darkness. I tried to verify Victor Sinclair's identity, hoping for some clarity about what had happened to me. But each search left me empty-handed. My Facebook profile had vanished into thin air, and no one matching my description had ever owned a helicopter or private airfield. My hands trembled as I clicked through various profiles. None bore resemblance to him or offered any leads. The absence of answers only deepened my unease, leaving me with more questions than I could bear. With every article I read about Arkham National Forest, the pieces began to coalesce into a horrifying picture. Victor was merely a facilitator, a lure for something far older and darker than any human could comprehend. It felt as though I had stumbled upon an ancient ritual designed to appease whatever dwelled among those towering trees. My instincts screamed at me to stay away from that place forever, yet part of me longed for closure, the truth wrapped in shadows. One night while sitting at my kitchen table surrounded by scattered papers filled with frantic notes from Jessica's journal and mine, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread settle upon me like an unwelcome visitor. Her entries spoke of fear and confusion. They were raw accounts of her last days before everything spiraled into madness. The weight of our shared experiences pressed down on me heavily, and I couldn't help but think about how we were both marked by this ordeal. As I tucked both journals away in a safety deposit box, a symbolic act meant to protect not just the fragile pages but also the memories within them, I reflected on what it meant to carry such a heavy moral debt. The truth no one else believed became my burden alone. It twisted inside me like a vine choking out light. How could anyone fathom what lay hidden beneath the surface? How could they understand that surviving meant confronting not only external horrors but also the inner demons we all carry? Today, when I look back at those nights spent trembling under stars obscured by darkened branches, I realize something profound. Whether by skill or sheer luck, or perhaps because something chose to let me go, my survival came with an eternal question mark hovering above my existence. Did it want me alive only to serve as its warning? Did it spare me so that I'd carry this chilling tale back into the world? The city's predictable rhythm failed to ease my mind. Instead, it amplified an ever-present awareness of lurking shadows beyond streetlights and well-lit corners. The static hum of everyday life morphed into whispers echoing warnings from deep within Arkham's grasp, an echo that refused to fade even amidst bustling streets. In moments of solitude, when darkness enveloped my room like a familiar shroud, images would flash before my eyes, the robed figures chanting their sinister incantations around an altar bathed in sickly light. My heart would race anew as terror clawed at my insides. Their chant echoed through time itself, a haunting melody woven into memory's fabric. Yet here I am today, grappling with truths no one wants to confront. How easily we dismiss warnings when they don't fit neatly into our understanding of reality. How readily we forget darkness resides not just in forests but also within ourselves, how it shapes our perceptions until we can no longer differentiate between safety and peril. Finally, as these reflections swirl within me like restless spirits searching for resolution, one thing remains clear: surviving is merely the first step toward true understanding, and perhaps true strength lies in facing both light and dark without flinching away from what we've lived through. Did you like this story? Leave a like, comment your thoughts and subscribe for more stories.